I hope you are well. In this video I would like to share with you some of the brightly coloured imaginary landscapes that I've created and talk you through some techniques for creating your own brightly coloured, expressive, imaginary landscape. It might be that you take ideas from a real life photograph, or it might be that you come up with something yourself. So just briefly, I've got lots of kind of paintings on canvas, but I wanted to just share some of the images that are in my sketchbook. So this is a piece that was coloured pastels, and I think maybe there is a little bit of oil pastel in there as well, but mostly pastels. And then this one, another pastel piece, but maybe less intense with the colours. And then a third one that was created using oil pastels. So I'm going to think about the same sort of idea. I'm just going to switch my camera down so you can see the sketchbook as I make the artwork. So working in the sketchbook is something that I really relish. I love that kind of the feeling of everything being contained in a book. It's just feeling really nice. So I'm just going to start with a crayon and think about like some of the shapes that I'd like. Thinking sometimes it's quite nice just to have a road that sort of goes up, sort of a line comes into this, maybe go brighter so people can see. Comes up here. Maybe think about some hills, some of the shapes that kind of come across. There might be a sense of having a horizon, sort of hills into the distance. Anyone that's been out in the countryside will notice that as you see further away, anything further away, to the eye it looks smaller, so that's where you get a bit of a perspective, where it starts to look realistic. When everything's drawn the same size, it all looks like it's at the same position. So I'm just bringing some of those in. It feels like a lot of this is about the shapes and building up lines and patterns would be next. And then I've just got a wax crayon, so maybe we can introduce some paint as well. Maybe we can think about some colours. So adding a bit of a green next to the red brings an element of contrast to that. Feels like that might really stand out. So you get the landscape where you get the feels, and you kind of working with maybe the tracks of the tractor's tracks, or the shapes of the fields within the landscape, so we can maybe draw in some of these sort of things. Got a little house there. Might be that you kind of want to go for some trees, or go for some, like, rather than drawing like bushes and hedges in a realistic way, all I've done is a little line, zigzags. So that's bringing in a little bit of an abstract way of drawing something that would be quite natural and something that's quite realistic. So because we're doing something imaginary, there is no need for the colours to be accurate. There is no need for the sky to be blue and the trees to be brown and green. It can be all very different. So we might go for like a bit of a swirly sky. If you know the art of Vincent van Gogh and his Starry, Starry Night, you'll be familiar with this swirly sky, and that might kind of change as we go along, but that we can start with. So all I've got is oil pastels right now. Sorry, I mean wax crayons. Bringing some lines in. So we're getting smaller as it goes further into the distance. And we're thinking about using some of the materials, so we can use some pen and to start to build some sort of squiggly lines which might represent a hedge or a bush or some trees. Should add like some extra parts there. So as I said before, you might have a picture in mind from any outings that you've been on, or like when you've been on holiday or you've been traveling, out walking or anything like that. And it could be that you could use that as a starting point, or it could be that you base this on something completely imaginary. And when I said imaginary, I was thinking, oh, you know what? Imagine what it would be like if this was like I had parts of the moon in this picture. So I've got like these like little bits here, little shapes and designs here that might be a bit like stepping onto the moon. That feeling of kind of being in that sort of land. And we bring some yellow in. So this can be something that you make quite quickly, or you could really take your time, really enjoying the process of colouring in. And like with pen, what I want to show you is something that you can do with pen is just use a little bit of water and go over the pen, and then the pen will spread out a bit like paint. So you've got a somewhat like a watercolour effect. And now that's actually a permanent marker, so it won't work with that one, but the water-based ones will. So a little bit more on there. So if you've been using felt tip pens to colour anything in, then you might kind of enjoy that technique. We can bring a little bit of these little lines into here. So what you'll see is that I'm doing this on top of the wax crayon. So I'm going to use the water again, and it should spread the felt pen out, but it's resisting where like the green was before, where the wax crayon was before. So we've actually got 3 different shades of green there, which I quite like that effect. And I don't know if that's something that you like or not. Let me know what you think. You can give this a shot. So we've got the sky there as well. So then if we were to kind of bring in where am I things, so we've got like some oil pastel as well that we can use. But yeah, bringing in some other colours into the sky might give sort of different atmospheres, different feelings for that. And a little bit of yellow in contrast to that purple could really lift that light up, lift that shape up. So maybe something in the foreground, just at the front, that is bigger. So perhaps something like a wall might be quite cool. Just some sort of rectangles that might look a bit like bricks, and then lines to fit in with a brick type theme. And then maybe we could go for a tree. So quite a chunky, funky tree. Like you'd start off with the trunk and then bring in to the branches across here. Going smaller across like that. This is something that you might want to then like use other colours in. Maybe use a bit of red or use something else. A little bit of red permanent marker might be quite effective because, well, I can show you the effect of this. Where we're going to use the pen with the water, anywhere where the permanent marker is, you're not going to have that blend and that watercolour effect. So if we went over this tree trunk, we'll have some sort of a blended effect, but then not for all of it. So the red's not going to spread out, but the blue will. It starts to be a bit more funky, funky monkey. Do a little bit of that blue into here. And say if you were at a position now where you thought, you know what, I feel like I want to add more to this. I feel like I want to bring in some paint or make some areas stand out even more. So using some acrylic paint, once you've got started, or all the way through really, might be quite fun for you. So I've just got the primary colours here. I had a pink as well, but the primary colours there, and that's really all you need. Maybe black and white as well to get some of the tones. So mix in the blue and the yellow to make the green. And now actually I think that maybe a little bit of a stippling effect. So using the end of the brush just to bring in this sort of design, and then maybe a little bit of yellow over the top of that. Quite like just to combine these. So I've just got, they're quite thick brushes, so maybe now using the thinner brush and using this red and maybe a bit of yellow to get a really nice kind of bright orange to bring into sort of any of the areas that we've missed, using like a bit of some kind of loose brush strokes to paint in some of these gaps. I've got that orange and red contrasting with each other, that sort of blend. And then actually, yeah, it's more the contrast with the sky and that next bit of land. So then bringing in a little bit of this, little bit of green actually for the over the trees. I was saying about like changing the colours, but sometimes it's quite nice just to kind of just go with your instinct, go with what you feel is best. And might be that you just want some lines and marks at this stage. Maybe add a little bit more water so you can spread this out. So not only are the things in the background smaller, they may also be lighter, so a fair bit of water can bring about that sort of effect. And if we were to add plenty of water into that, then you can paint over the top of the wax crayon and use what's called a wax resist effect. So we've got where I'm painting, paints in all the gaps, but everywhere where there is wax crayon has resisted it, so you'll still see the contrast of that paint. These can be done sort of in any sort of style that you like, any size. A bit of paint over the top of that, like layering acrylic paint up is really easy to do because it dries so quickly. So if you go wrong, like put a colour that's too dark or like where you're not happy with, then once it's dry you can actually go over the top of that and rebuild that, so all is not lost. And so if you're like treating this as an experiment, as testing out like how materials work and really thinking about kind of what you might do with the paint, what you might do with the pastels and chalks and all kinds of materials that you want to get your hands on, anything that you've got that you're used to using, or if there's anything that's fresh materials, then you are more than encouraged to experiment that on here. So we're going to leave it as that and just spin this round so you can see a bit more clearly. And maybe I'll lift this camera up so we can all see all together. And what we've got there is brightly coloured imaginary landscape, which I've been happy to share with you. And so if you like this video, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and let me know how you get along with your pictures, with your pieces, with your art. Opportunities to express yourself can be found anywhere. This has just taken 15 minutes, so anytime, any place, anywhere. Cheerio!